What's up, guys? It's your boy Kayola, back with another lesson. And today, by the end of this video, you'll know how to create melodies just like Lil Uzi Vert. And today's examples, we're going to be using XO Tour Life and New Patek, okay? So there are 3 keys to a Lil Uzi Vert melody. Number 1 is a jump in intervals or a change in pitch. Number 2 is repetition. And number 3 is variation. So we're going to start with XO Tour Life. Now, the key number 1 is changing intervals or changing pitch. And basically what I mean by that is jumping from one note to another note, usually a higher note. Now, in some cases, you can jump to a lower note, but usually we're going to talk about a higher note. And the thing about jumping to a higher note, it creates excitement and it creates emotion, taking a boring melody and making it something interesting to the ear. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, with XO Tour Life. I don't really care if you cry. On the real, you should've never lied. Should've saw the way she looked me in my eyes. She said, I am not afraid to die. Now, at the end of the first 3 lines is where you get the jumping notes or the jumping pitch or the change in intervals. When he goes, I don't really care if you cry. On the real, you should've never lied. The thing is your melodies need those leaps in order to spark the listener's ear. Because if you don't have those leaps, then you risk your melody sounding boring. Okay, now take the original melody from XO Tour Life and compare it to one that does not have any leaps. I don't really care if you cry. On the real, you should've never lied. Should've saw the way she looked me in my eyes. She said, I am not afraid to die. You see the difference? It's not as exciting as the one with the leaps. Now, key number 2 is the repetition. Now, in this melody, there are 4 lines, and the first 3 lines have repetition, and the last line is where he switches it up. Okay? And the last line is where we'll get to our 3rd key, the variation. But let's go over repetition first. Your melody must have some form of repetition because the repetition is what makes a hook a hook. It's what hooks the listener. It's what keeps them coming back to the song. It's what keeps them humming the song long after they're done listening to the song. So let's get into it. Like I said, the first 3 lines are repetitious. I don't really care if you cry. On the real, you should've never lied. Should've saw the way she looked me in my eyes. She said, I am not afraid to die. All great melodies have repetition. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to remember that because that is what's going to keep your listeners coming back. And the 3rd key is the variation. The variation helps change the melody shape in order to not bore the listener. Like, the melody would have been okay if he would have just repeated the same melodic line for all 4 lines, but he makes the melody even more interesting and even more unique by changing it up a bit on the 4th line. I don't really care if you cry. On the real, you should've never lied. Should've saw the way she looked me in my eyes. She said, I am not afraid to die. And just like the leap can create emotion, when he changes up that 4th line and he kind of goes a little bit lower, he adds a bit more weight to the emotion. Instead of giving you the excitement in the leap, the I am not afraid to die, it gives it more of a serious tone. You get me? Okay, now let's get into New Patek because New Patek follows the same principles, right? When he says, and your girlfriend like my drip, happy birthday to that bitch, you're the one that sucked my dick, triple S at that extra grip, said no, I cannot slip, that jewelry made me proud of my wrist. Now this melody has the same principles. It has the leap, but except in this song, the leap isn't at the end of the line. It's more towards the beginning or the middle. And that's another thing to remember just when you're creating melodies in general. It doesn't matter where your leaps, where you're changing intervals, changing pitches. It doesn't matter where it happens as long as it happens. Because if all of your songs have a leap at the end of each line, your melodies are going to start to sound the same. They're going to start running together and you're going to bore your listener. So always remember that. It doesn't matter where in the melody, where in the melodic line the leap happens as long as it has a leap. So let's get into it. And your girlfriend like my drip. Happy birthday to that bitch. You're the one that sucked my dick. Triple S got that extra grip. Said no, I cannot slip. That jeweler made me proud of my wrist. You see, it has a leak. Girlfriend like my drip. Happy birthday to that bitch. You're the one that sucked my dick. Triple S got that extra grip. Said no, I cannot slip. That jeweler made me proud of my wrist. And key number 2, you hear the repetition. So he repeats the same melodic line at the start of the melody and he breaks it up towards the end. And your girlfriend like my drip. Happy birthday to that bitch. You're the one that sucked my dick. Triple S got that extra grip. Said no, I cannot slip. That jeweler made me proud of my wrist. And the third key is the variation towards the end. When he says no, I cannot slip. That jeweler made me proud of my wrist. Once again, it adds a bit emotional weight to what he's saying, and it also breaks the melody up and it keeps it interesting, so he's not repeating the same melodic line throughout the whole melody. And so, remember, number 1 key is you have to have those leaps, those changing intervals, because they create excitement for the listener. Number 2, you have to have repetition, because the repetition is what keeps the listener coming back. The repetition is what gets that melody stuck in their ear. An earworm. And number 3 is the variation, because if you keep on with the same repetition, you're gonna risk your melody becoming stale. You guys gotta remember, we're making 2 to 3 minute songs, and if you keep the same melodic line without changing it up, it's gonna get boring, where the listener will probably like it the first 2 times, but after the 3rd or 4th time, it'll get boring because it has no switch up, it has no variation. And that's basically how Lil Uzi Vert creates his melodies. If you guys got any other video suggestions, any topics you want me to cover, let me know down in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can become the best artist you can be. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you later. That's why I do it on a daily basis. I might die tonight, I'm making sure my day amazing. I ain't complaining long as a nigga pay is racing. Got me going in on a fucking daily basis. And I don't need special occasions when you see a nigga with all of these chains.